This is going to be a video to do with a different approach to the electric guitar that some people might find fun to try if you're after something different. It's mainly to do with looking at the guitar in a different way in terms of texture, I think, even though what sounds very interesting with it is the melodic ideas, but if you get, as soon as you sort of think of the strings in a different way, then you can start to get a sound like this. It's not going to be a video to do with trying to get a traditional raga sort of sound, because it's not really something I know a lot about. I started thinking about this way of playing after hearing Shawn Lane do something similar. He was influenced by a lot of different Indian musicians and Indian classical instruments and things. And I'll put a link to some of his stuff in the description where he does this kind of thing. But he's basically playing, you know, melodic improvisation over sort of a static harmonic environment. But I think he's creating that sound with some kind of looper or reverb or something like that. It's a looper, but it sounds like a reverse reverb thing he's doing in there. But a way you can kind of set that up without any effects really, and something that I'm surprised I've not heard more is, because it's so simple, is just to put the guitar basically in a drop D tuning. So that's basically a chord with the root, the fifth, and then the root again, and the low three strings. And that's basically emulating the tambura sound you hear in Indian classical music, that sort of drone resonant sound, what sits under the melodic improvisation. So if you're splitting up the 6 strings this way, you're thinking you've got these 3 as sort of your static environment in which to create melodies, and then your top 3 strings you can improvise with. Although most of the time I tend to heavily favour the 3rd string. I find it to be a bit more kind of resonant than the thinner strings. I just prefer the tone. And also when you play on this string, you have physically more fretboard to bend the note with. So you notice if you want to keep these ringing, then you can't bend it upwards like you might normally, because then you'll kill the ringing strings. So basically what I'm thinking is, or the sound I like to play with this kind of mood, well, the example I played was pretty much around D Lydian, which I relate to basically F sharp natural minor. But so you're pretty much just picking a scale and then in that mode, if you like, trying to create melodies. But it's a nice way to play because I think it forces you, in the same way that playing like an electric blues style, like it makes you pay a lot of attention to the vibrato and the intonation and the phrasing. Even if it's a really simple set of pitches what you have, it's more how you can bring them to life with like the slides and the vibrato and the expression, things like that, which obviously is a big part of the sound in the traditional Indian instruments like the sitar and the sarod and things. But it's a good way to learn your scales as well, because you'll become familiar with them all over the board through this. So that's like a D Lydian sound, which is, I like this sound probably the most for this kind of playing, but really anything will work. Let's see, I quite like a D Mixolydian sound. That'd be even closer to a blues. So I relate that to like a E natural minor in my head. So that would be like an example of like a Mixolydian sound. Or if you wanted more dark sound, then like a Phrygian sort of sound, then you'd be thinking D Phrygian, which I would relate to G natural minor. So it's quite a good way to open up your ears if you're working on different kinds of tonalities and trying to experiment that way. I think it works very well on the electric guitar, because especially if you have like an amp, a little bit of reverb really kind of brings the sound to life, I find. This is a very pleasing sound just on its own for me, and on any kind of plucked string instrument you'll realise you've got so much variety if you want to try different tones and things like that. So it'll make you pay attention to the different aspects of playing a stringed instrument, really. But like I said, I think it's very related to, if you have a background as an electric guitar player playing a lot of like electric blues music, it's something it's not really a million miles away in terms of the expression techniques. If you want to, you have the vibrato and the slides and things. It's just a different way of using it to get a different mood. If you like that kind of sound, that was, for example, I think how, I guess you can kind of hear that in Shawn Lane's playing. I mean, it is very, very, has a lot of like sort of blues shades in there. Even when he's going for different moods and things, they still come through, I guess, because that's deep rooted in his sort of playing. So pretty much that's the deal. I would suggest, I'd give it a go if you think it sounds interesting. It's a nice way to play the guitar because it's very simple in a way. You're just dividing up the strings, and then you're just free to do what you want. And it's a nice way to do, if you're never, sometimes it's hard to get a sound with solo guitar that you're happy with because you're lacking like a resonance and sustain underneath the melody. But obviously this is that's on a solid guitar with a bit of reverb, that'll go for ages, and you're free to sort of just play around and do what you want. So it's very fun and a good way to learn the instrument, I would suggest. It's something I'm surprised is not more common, since you can't go like 5 minutes without hearing something in this vein, but it's actually not really a million miles off. But if it's something you're interested in, you give it a go, because it's a nice kind of style to get off the ground with. I'll put a few links in the description of the video to things that kind of got me interested in this. I think one was seeing, there's a clip of like Julian Bream in the 60s playing a classical guitar, improvising with a sarod player called Akbar, which is kind of an interesting combination of instruments. I do think it works better on the electric guitar though because of the sustain. Oh, one thing as well, it's easier to get those kind of sort of sliding ornate sounds if you put something like fast fret on the strings, that's what this is. You just sort of run it over the strings once, and then normally if you just go straight on like that, then there's too much. You have to sort of wipe a bit off, else it feels you're sliding all over the place. But that'll help too if you like those kind of sort of slinky sounding things. I like that a lot. But yeah, hopefully that was interesting. Thanks for watching.